Well, let's move now to the deficits which you're tackling this week, or tackling over the next few months, but including up to this week. The budget had them at $42 billion for 25-26 and around $35 to $37 billion per year for the next 3 years after that. So pretty substantial. Have you got them down at all? And have you been able to generate much in the way of savings to reduce those deficits in the lead up to MyEFO?
Yeah, a couple of important specific points about that. But first of all, this mid-year budget update is all about delivery, responsibility and restraint. It's about delivering the commitments we took to the people in May. It's about finding room for big pressures on the budget, and it's about updating our forecasts. So it's not a mini budget. There's not a lot of new stuff in there, but there's a lot of hard yards to make room for our commitments and the big pressures on the budget, which are intensifying rather than easing. And so your question about the deficits, the big task for Katie Gallagher and I and the Expenditure Review Committee this time around has been to make room for tens of billions of dollars in pressures in areas like the age pension, natural disasters, veterans, military superannuation and the like. So that's been the main game, to try not to go substantially backwards as we make room for our commitments and for these tens of billions of dollars in pressure. So I can tell your viewers today, Andrew, Wednesday's mid-year budget update will have another $20 billion in savings in it. $20 billion in savings, which means that we've now found some savings in every single one of our 7 budgets and budget updates. And to give you a sense of the magnitude of that $20 billion, it took our predecessors 7 budget updates to find $20 billion of savings. We've found that in just this one budget update for Wednesday. It means that we've now found $114 billion in savings over our 7 budgets and budget updates. That is 5 times more than our predecessors found in their last 7. And what it demonstrates is that this mid-year budget update will be defined by economic responsibility, just like the government is.
Is that $20 billion over 4 years? And even as you do that, does that lower the deficits or not?
Well, we'll release all of the detailed numbers around the underlying cash position for each of the 4 years in the usual way. The $20 billion is 4 years of savings. It takes our total to $114 billion since we've been in office. And that's been a really key way that we've made room to strengthen Medicare and cut taxes and build urgent care clinics and build the infrastructure that people need in growing communities. That's what our approach to the budget has been all about. The government is defined by responsible economic management. People can expect to see more of that on Wednesday. But the main game, as I said a moment ago, in relation to those deficits, is when we've got $35 billion of upward pressures, we've got commitments to deliver in housing and mental health and infrastructure and fast-tracking skills for tradies, then the main job has been to not go substantially backwards. And so what you'll see in Wednesday's numbers is really our best effort to find those tens of billions of savings, to show considerable spending restraint once again, so that we can deliver on our commitments and make room for those pressures.
So I'm listening to you, and what I'm hearing is they're not lower deficits.
Well, you have to wait and see, Andrew. I've given you a new number this morning, which is $20 billion of savings, but the rest of the numbers will be revealed through the course of the week, and especially on Wednesday. You'll see on Wednesday that what defines the mid-year budget update is responsible economic management. That has been a hallmark of this government. It's how we found $114 billion in savings over 7 updates. It's why we found $20 billion in savings in the update that Katie and I release on Wednesday.
Where is that $20 billion? What have you saved?
We'll have more to say about that, Andrew, in the course of the week, and certainly by Wednesday. We'll obviously identify all of the constituent parts of that of those $20 billion in savings. There's obviously the already announced in the course of the election campaign the changes we're making to external labour in the public service. But I want to leave that the detail of that to the release of the documents and to the work that I do with Katie Gallagher. Will make it really clear where those $20 billion in savings are coming from. But the point I'm making to you and your viewers this morning, Andrew, is in a mid-year budget update, which is all about delivery, responsibility and restraint, there will be $20 billion of savings in there And that's an important way that we've made room to deliver on our commitments and also to make room for these pressures in areas of spending which are unavoidable.
I'm told you're close to a deal with the states on the hospitals and the NDIS potentially. Is that fair? And how much would that change the budget position either way if that was achieved?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we've put a very substantial offer on the table, $23 billion in extra funding for the states and territories for hospitals. We've put that on the table in good faith, and we continue to work with the colleagues, whether it be health ministers, treasurers, premiers and chief ministers, to try and do that deal by the end of the year. If we can, obviously, we will have contingencies if we can't strike a deal. But we've had to sensibly provision for a future deal in the mid-year budget update. It's obviously not finished by the time that we had to put the numbers to bed, and so this hospitals deal will be a really substantial pressure on the mid-year budget update on Wednesday, and particularly pressure over the medium term, over the 10-year horizon. But those $23 extra billion are over 5 years. We've put it on the table in good faith. It's a very substantial offer. It will put very substantial pressure on our budget. It's another one of those things that we've had to make room for with these savings and with this spending restraint.
Well, what's Treasury's prediction on inflation? Because the budget forecast were for 3% this financial year, 2.5% from there on in. It's obviously higher than that. And how much of a driver for inflation is energy costs? How much of a mask has this energy bill rebate you put on been for the government's perceived performance on inflation?
Well, first of all, really in our forecast for some time now, they have assumed that these electricity bill rebates will come off. We've said we've been very upfront for some time now, not just the last couple of weeks, but the last couple of years, in saying these electricity bill rebates are an important part of the budget, but not a permanent part of the budget. They're a key way that we've been helping with the cost of living, but not the only way. And so ending these electricity bill rebates at the end of this year, I think, signifies a big shift away from the temporary help for the cost of living into the more permanent help via the tax system with our 3 income tax cuts, 2 of which will flow over next year and the year after that. So it signifies a shift, is the first point. Obviously, we update our inflation forecast at every budget update. The Treasury goes about that in their usual considered and diligent, methodical way. They will factor in, as they have for some time, that the electricity bill rebates come off. They will also factor in some of the recent data that we've got in inflation, which has come in a bit higher than forecast, much lower than what we inherited, but higher than we would like. And so they'll update the forecast for inflation. You'll see those on Wednesday. That will take into consideration recent data, and it will also take into consideration, as it has for some time, the fact that those rebates will come off.
You were one of those people, Treasurer, whose grabs they repeatedly play from the 2022 election campaign, promising that Labor's renewable energy policy would lead to a $275 a year cut in power bills. It's obviously been proved to be a lie. Do you regret that statement you made around that?
Well, that statement reflected modelling we had done in 2021 before a war in Ukraine and before Angus Taylor hid that spike in electricity prices before that subsequent election. I think we've dealt with this over the course of recent years. The key now is what happens when we try and replace these increasingly unreliable coal-fired power stations as they exit the system, as they have been planned to do for some time. And the key to that is replacing that generation with cleaner and cheaper, renewable, reliable energy, and that's our plan.
You announced a change, or Chris Bowen did, on the batteries policy yesterday. It's a little bit hard to follow, but basically you won't be able to claim for bigger batteries. And obviously this has blown out your budget, this election promise. Can you explain the change to our viewers?
I can. So this program has been extremely successful, and now we need to make sure that it's sustainable. And that's what the changes that Chris announced yesterday are all about. And what it means is tapering the benefit for bigger batteries. Because one of the reasons why there's been a higher than expected cost of this program is because people are installing bigger and bigger batteries. Now, this is good for the grid, it's good for household budgets, and we need to make sure it's good for the budget as well. And so the best way to think about my part of the changes which were announced yesterday is we committed about $2 billion to this. It's been extraordinarily successful in ways that we welcome and encourage. The take-up has been amazing, and that's a very good thing. But we're providing another $5 billion or so to take it to $7 billion. But without the changes that Chris announced yesterday for bigger batteries, the cost would be around twice that, around $14 billion. And so what we've done is we've given certainty. We've said we're going for 2 million batteries by 2030 now. We're providing very generous subsidies. We're providing sustainable ways to taper for some of those big batteries, and that means we're spending more in this program, but not as much as we would be spending had we left it completely untouched.
Just finally, Treasurer, on the social media ban introduced last week, anecdotally, many parents are telling me their kids still have accounts and they've really outsmarted the ban. I think it says something about the ingenuity of kids, really. But is it in danger of failing, the ban, therefore?
Well, this is a game changer for Australian kids and Australian parents, and it's world leading. And we've said throughout that kids will try and find a way around it. No doubt platforms as well will try and find a way around it. There'll be bumps along the way. It won't capture every single kid in every single home, but it will make a huge difference. And I've already noticed, and parents coming up to me around and about here in my own community to the south of Brisbane, very grateful for the changes that we've made. They're courageous changes, they're bold changes. And people will try all kinds of things to get around them. We'll do our best to keep up with those efforts. But let's not forget what this is all about. This is about protecting our kids online. It's a game changer for Australian families. It's world leading. There are good reasons why the world is paying attention, and that's because these changes are so warranted.
Treasurer Jim Chalmers, thanks so much for your time.
Appreciate it, Andrew. All the best.
Have a good Christmas.